as you may be able to tell by our spooky red serial killer virtual boy lighting, we watched a movie about a serial killer, and that movie was Longlegs. Aiden, what is the plot of Longlegs?
Longlegs follows an FBI agent named Lee, who is tasked with investigating a cold case for a serial killer called Longlegs, who is able to make people kill themselves through some method. She's put on this case because she's revealed to be moderately psychic, and she investigates it and has awkward meetings with her mother and finds out things about the killer, and then it has a bad ending. Connor, what'd you think of Longlegs?
Longlegs was 2/3 of a masterpiece and 1/3 one of the shittier A24 or Blumhouse productions. Like, there's kind of a formula to this type of I don't know. I thought they were going for like a serial killer procedural, like Silence of the Lambs or Zodiac. Both of those are kind of different. One's an investigation, one's kind of an interview with the serial killer type of vibe. But, you know, I was kind of hoping for like some sort of like dive in the mind of some interesting character. And for 2/3 of the movie, it's kind of a disturbed FBI detective who has her clear issues, but is causing revelation after revelation on this long-running serial killer, which is essentially a cold case after a number of victims. And then pretty late into the second act, she finds out she was visited by the serial killer. And then we meet the serial killer, who is Nicolas Cage doing a Heath Ledger impression from the interrogation scene of The Dark Knight, until he starts ranting about Satan and then kills himself. And then it turns into a goofy, wacky, not so interesting story that is incredibly predictable. The common thread with all of the people who are killed is that they have a daughter who was born on the 14th. And this guy, like, kills families, but it doesn't seem like he kills them. He, like, brainwashes them somehow. And as it turns out, Nicolas Cage creates magical dolls that cause the dads to want to kill their family and then kill themselves.
Because the dolls have Satan in them.
Yeah, and the whole family gets brainwashed by it. This despite the fact that early in the movie, when I don't think they had the ending figured out, they wrote into the script that there's a 911 call where the wife and daughter are heard being scared while they get killed. But that's gone by the end. Anyways, the cop investigator friend happens to have a daughter whose birthday is coming up. The daughter's birthday isn't disclosed as to not make it too obvious. But he's a loving family man.
Also has a birthday coming up.
The main character also has a birthday. For some reason, this movie's obsessed with birthdays. There's a lot of shit about this serial killer. Like, I feel like they had a lot of concepts for the movie, and there's a lot of shit they just never explain. Like, why the birthday is the 14th, etc. It just turns out, oh, he's a Satanist or something. The last third of this movie feels like the last third of a Nun movie, when the first third feels like a prestigious police procedural serial killer movie, like we used to get a lot in like the early 2000s and the 90s. That is a less common genre these days. And I was really fucking with it when I thought it was that, and then they didn't know what to do with the third act, so they revealed Nicolas Cage so he could impersonate Heath Ledger's Joker for 10 minutes, but he falls a little too far into the Joker baby territory. Notable alums are Melvin, brother of the Joker, Jason Momoa's character from Fast X.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of the Joker babies that have come since my Joker performances, so to speak, that have come since Heath Ledger. And for some reason, that's what they did with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
and I was
they
like,
let him
oh,
go
I,
wild, and
I was like,
went wild.
I don't really like that, but whatever. Who cares that much? I guess him killing himself is fine. We can get back to it. And then you're like, I don't know. I guess like weird like dolls possessed by Satan or something possess the dad and possess everybody, and then they kill themselves and they kill their families. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of a stupid solution to an otherwise really good 2/3 of a movie. He does really decent acting besides the Joker baby, and really good cinematography, superb sound editing, pretty much everything you would want from a movie like this, with a wildly stupid and weak third act when compared to the first 2/3 of the movie, which is fucking superb.
It's rare that a movie gets worse when Nick Cage shows up and acts like Nick Cage, but this is one of those times. He is horribly miscast in this movie he produced.
From Nick Cage being on screen, it was almost like a car with a lot of momentum. Like, it's like when, he's like a race car in first place that like spins out and hits the fucking guardrail and then flips over the fence and kills like 20 pedestrians and the driver and it explodes. That's kind of what it felt like,
Yeah.
Like it was on a roll, then it hit a patch of black ice and spun out and crashed into a tree, decapitating everybody inside the car. These are my car analogies for this movie. But it's really good for 2/3, and then the last third is really fucking bad and basically made the movie not worth watching, in my opinion. But anyways, Aiden, what did you think of Longlegs?
Longlegs is visually and on the audio side of things pretty incredible. It looks and sounds fantastic the whole way through. Nick Cage was a horrible mistake. He takes this relatively grounded story that has a little bit of supernatural elements and derails it by being over-the-top Nick Cage, which does not fit in this movie. Beyond that, he's basically killed at the start of the third act, and then the movie spins its wheels trying to figure out how to limp to some kind of ending, and it has like a fucking generic like ghost movie ending where it's like there's an evil doll and she can't break it because it's possessing her, and mostly everyone dies. And it might as well just be like the fucking Conjuring 6 or something.
Pretty much.
Or like the fucking Nun 3. It's rough. It's pretty brutal to go out like that, because for the first 2/3 it's pretty great. It's gripping, it's interesting. You don't know where it's going to go. It's a little weaker as a detective story since there's a point very early on where she just psychically intuits how to decode the killer's messages. So you don't really get like that process part of it or that discovery. And then the movie that's kind of a little issue in the early part, but beyond that, it starts really strong, and somehow Nick Cage just fucks it up, dies, and it never recovers.
Yeah, I mean, it starts getting a little wobbly when everything in the movie turns out to be fucking pointless, because he's like, I looked at your file and your mom reported that she saw Longlegs in the 70s, and then she said, okay, I'm gonna visit my mom, and then she gets a picture of Longlegs and she's like, this is Longlegs, and then it cuts to him being captured.
Yeah.
That's where it all gets fucked.
There's no
once they're like, okay, we don't
once
know what
they have
else,
a picture
we don't know
of
where to
him,
write, we don't know where to take this mystery
once
anymore.
they have a picture of him, there's no more investigating. He's captured, he does his Joker thing, he's out of the movie.
Yep.
It's a mess.
They don't even really investigate to like figure out it's Satan after that. Nicolas Cage just says it was Satan actually the whole time, and everybody just kind of accepts this except the chief guy, who gets written out until he gets possessed by Satan.
Yeah. Yeah, the ending is rough. I do have to give a shout out. This movie had an incredible ad campaign that made me very curious to see what was going on. And that incredible ad campaign also worked on at least a dozen incredibly bored couples who started whining about how boring the art house movie they got tricked into seeing was and falling asleep and like just laying on the ground and taking naps.
Yeah.
Just to get it over with.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because we walked into our 11 a.m. matinee, which is normally a good way to like. Even the biggest fucking movies will have like two people,
there to be
somehow there were like 3 open seats in the entire auditorium.
I expected it at 11 a.m. on a Monday. I expected there to be one really confused old person and maybe like one person like us who wanted to see the weird art house horror movie that's not really a horror movie.
Yeah.
No, it was just loaded with couples looking for blowjobs who got tricked into seeing.
I was reading on Letterboxd. I didn't see any ads for this. You just said we should watch it. When I saw Nicolas Cage on the poster in like old lady makeup, I was like, meh. And I scrolled by it because, you know, Blumhouse makes 40 of those a week. And then you mentioned you saw the ads and it looked good, but from what I was reading on Letterboxd, a lot of people were tricked by the ad campaign that was like, this is the scariest movie of all time. I wasn't scared at all. Like it was a thriller, really. It wasn't a horror movie.
Yeah, it's more like Silence of the Lambs than it's a horror movie.
I mean, it's unsettling.
Until the back third where it's like a shitty haunted
I would
movie.
say like unsettling more than scary is a better word for it.
Yeah.
There's unsettling moments.
It's got a lot of good tension in the first 2/3, and then
Nicolas Cage was good for the first 2/3 until he had more than like a 3-second scene where he was just acting moderately creepy. And then he starts talking like Nicolas Cage and yelling about Satan in a 5-minute monologue. And
you gotta see the fucking trailer for this movie. It sells it. It sells it, man. They sell it hard. The guy who made that marketing campaign, who cut that trailer, needs a fucking raise for tricking all those couples into falling asleep at this.
Yeah, A24 needs to scalp that guy because.
Yeah, Neon's got the trailer cutter apparently.
Yeah, I feel like this seems like at like modern A24. Like A24 actually always really they haven't changed much.
Neon kind of leans. Neon leans a little more like. Actual movie. Neon's usually a little less art house where they make like
A24 just makes a bunch of screaming, obnoxious shit that sometimes ends up being really good and sometimes ends up being really stupid and pretentious.
Yep.
It's basically Blumhouse.
Yeah.
But with a good regard.
And Neon's somewhere in between where it's classier than Blumhouse and not as art house as A24.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2/3 of a really good movie. It's very, very good visually, very, very good audibly. And it falls apart hard. It falls apart real hard. So Connor, would you recommend Longlegs to couples who want to watch a blowjob horror movie like Imaginary by Blumhouse about the evil bear?
No, I wouldn't recommend it. And the biggest thing is I was very gripped and engaged with the story for the first 2/3. And then when Nicolas Cage came on, it was so fucking... It was like, oh... Okay, kind of okay, and then it keeps going, and you're like, okay, this is bad. Because you give a lot of... The movie has a lot of faith. I had a lot of faith in the movie at that point. I was invested enough that the first, like, minute, I'm like, okay, Nicolas Cage is really doing something here. And then I realized, no, he wasn't doing something there. He was Joker, baby, and he went full Joker.
He overcooked.
He overcooked, bro. The Joker's a hard line to teeter. And I think Heath Ledger, if his performance came out today, would probably fall in the category of Joker baby. But the fact that he created the Joker baby genre, he's kind of exempt from it.
Yeah, he's the forerunner.
He's the forerunner, and I guess he's a little less Joker baby than the less good actors who have tried to do the same. So no, I wouldn't recommend it, and it's primarily because the first 2/3 is so good that the last third of the movie being dog shit, like, that's worse for me. Like, I don't think it's an awful movie, I probably would normally recommend it, but it's just so disappointing to like get your hopes up and then have a movie like fucking fumble so hard in the third act. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like, I gave it a 3.5, basically on the faith of how well done it is and the fact that the first 2/3 is good. But the ending is so disappointing that, like, I don't think it would get a 3.5 from me again.
If this stuck the landing, it would be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, all it had to do was figure out an ending, but they had a concept that they were able to stretch to 2/3 of a movie, and they had no idea how to wrap it up, and they did what they did, and it sucked. So, yeah. Aiden, would you recommend Longlegs?
Unfortunate no for me. The first 2/3 real good, visually great through the whole thing. It's very well made, undeniably a well made movie in every area except the script for the third act. It feels like a genuine waste of time to have so much good setup and such a tremendously bad payoff.
Yeah.
That I can't recommend it. I can't recommend it, especially if you're a couple who wants to watch a movie about an evil swimming pool or a robot girl who does TikTok dances and stabs people.
Nicolas Cage is the Joker in the scariest movie of all time.
You need to see the fucking trailer for this.
What is the trailer?
I'll show you in a minute. It's just, I don't know. It makes it look like a weird art house horror movie, which it's absolutely not.
No, they really pushed this to be a horror movie, even down to like the presentation. It's much more of like a fucking thriller.
Yeah.
Like occasionally with like slight horror elements, but more just thriller elements. I feel like a lot of people just like have like the genre is weirdly merged in some ways. You got like this in Silence of the Lambs that falls somewhere between Taken and Paranormal Activity. Somewhere between. Smack dab in the middle is Longlegs.
Zodiac, but the final third of the movie is The Nun Part 4, Spooky Doll edition.
Yeah,
Annabelle 3.
Zodiac versus Ouija board origins. Somewhere in the middle is this movie. Somewhere between Run All Night and The Conjuring 3 lies this very special movie to me called Longlegs.